What's up? How you doing? Here we are. Beautiful night. Beautiful night tonight. Just got back from the desert. Went out there, drove my little vehicle around. Did a little hiking. It was very warm today. It felt like May 23rd, you know, that time of year where you're getting very excited that school's finishing and it's got that nice feeling in the air. Fresh air. Anyway, that's how it was today. So I get there and there's a mountain in the back, and when I first arrived I could see a little bit of smoke, and I said, it looks like that mountain is on fire. Well, about an hour later the smoke got thicker and thicker, and I didn't notice anybody fighting it. I mean, you can't tell on the ground. Maybe they had a bunch of people with a pail and they were throwing water on it, but I didn't see any airplanes, any aircraft, helicopters dropping water, nothing. Anyway, so today we're going to do tacos. I have fresh hamburger meat, very fresh, and I have here my pan. Hopefully it all fits in there. And I have the bread that they make street tacos, tortillas. Big fan of Mexican food. I love Mexican food. Old El Paso, these are the hard tacos. Whatever they want. I have onions, I have tomatoes, I have cheese inside, I have sour cream, I have all that stuff. So I'm a big fan of Mexican food. I'm a big fan of Indian food. I'm a big fan of Greek food. I'm a big fan of Japanese food. Love Chinese food. I got a story about the Chinese food, and German food is good. Schnitzel's there, sticks to the ribs. But yeah, when I go to Vegas, I have to get the tacos there. Big fan of the tacos. Very flavorful. Anyway, turn this on. And we're gonna put a little bit of olive oil, just a little bit. All right. Get it greased up. Monounsaturated fat. And when that heats up, we will begin the process. So for spice, well, knock everything down here. For spice, I'm using the Taco Mix by Old El Paso. There's other brands just as good, but this one was the most convenient one in front of me, and I've used it before, so I know it's good. I've already mixed it, you know, I've already mixed it in here with, I heated up the water and I mixed it in, so that's all ready to go. But we have to cook the hamburger meat first. Now, LAPD. It's like they're watching me. Alright, so we're gonna put it in here. I know it's a lot of meat. I should have had a bigger pan, but it's fine. Plus, when water starts evaporating, the meat will shrink. Very fresh. Very fresh. Good aroma. You go down the butcher shop, they have different varieties. They have the regular one, you know, 80-20, 20% fat. Then you have the 15, then you have the 10, and some places have the 7%. Butcher shop I go to also has the special gourmet cuts of meat. So the butcher over there has his preference, and he gets really good cuts of meat and blends them inside the grounding machine. And a lot of times I get that, and it's good flavor. You know, like if we make meatballs or something, I will get the gourmet one. But you know, if we're gonna add stuff, spices, then I will get the depends. I mean, if I do spaghetti, if we do spaghetti, my wife does the spaghetti and the sauce because she's an expert in that stuff. But that one, it could be less fatty. Starting to smell like in the old days when I would go get a steak and cheese. They would say, "What do you want on it?" It would smell like that. But that was, I can get like the taco meat that they cut in little squares, but I didn't get that today. I don't want to be too aggressive with this and it starts flying all over the place. And I gotta get it all brown. Alright, let's crank it up a little bit here. So that's what happened today. I was out in the desert and found a nice flat area. Drove my little miniature car, which happens to have real shocks, real struts. Takes a little bit of practice with that car. I bought these ramps because I was jumping my Evel Knievel motorcycle thing. You know, from the old days they had in the 70s. It was a very, very popular toy back then. I think Evel Knievel made most of his money from that toy rather than the jumps. But anyway, I had that, you know, and that one I can aim it. You release it once you rev it up and it'll hit the ramps perfectly most of the time. But a lot of steam here. But the little car I have is hard to get it to go in a straight line. You know, you keep adjusting it and you keep missing. So today I didn't bother with the ramps. I just drove it around. And then I went to a place where they have old airplanes, real ones. And right in that area there used to be cows. Like there was a ranch that had, like, I don't know, 500 heads of cattle. And once in a while I would go and check things out. Well, I went today and there was no cattle. I don't know what happened. They closed down. The machinery was there. Maybe they ate the cows. I don't know. You know, I look at the cows, and when I look at them live like that, they don't look appealing for eating. I never would have picked that animal to eat. Just doesn't have that, you know, edible look. No animal does. But somebody must have been hungry in the woods one day and saw a wild cow and said, I gotta eat that. And then they said, it's not bad. And then somebody forgot about the cow meat in their shed and they got hungry again and they had to eat that old meat. And they said to some other people, hey, you know what, if you let it age for about a month, it's even better. So they started aging the meat. That's how they discovered all those things. Wine, wine, for example, was discovered when they saw elephants stomping on the grapes. And then, I don't know how long after, because I'm not a wine expert, but a while after that, the same elephants went back, started eating those grapes that they mushed up. And all those elephants started to walk in reverse. Instead of forward, they were doing the backwards thing. And the villagers were like, what the hell's going on with the elephants? So they went and tried the grapes that were on the ground, all smushed up. And they ended up getting lit, you know. And they started walking backwards. And that's how wine was discovered or invented. The elephants. We're getting there. So once this all browns up, I add the spices, so it's not boring. All right. Yeah, a lot of times I get the cut meat, cut it up in little squares. I prefer triangles, but that takes more time. But the meat I had yesterday, the flap steak. Oh, lost a little. The flap steak can also be turned into taco meat, and that's delicious. All right. There's a few red spots, but we're gonna let it cook a little bit longer. Sometimes I look at my daughters and I think to myself, where did all the time go? How did they grow up so rapidly? It's just mind-boggling. You know, up until yesterday, they were babies. And then one day you look and you go, where'd the babies go? Not babies anymore. You know, everybody says the same thing. Oh, time goes by so fast. You better enjoy the years. I did enjoy the years. And I'm still enjoying the years. Some of the best times, probably the best times I've had in my life were with my kids. My wife, you know. Very good times. Would not trade them for anything, you know. My kids, they're good, you know, good kids, good personalities. So I had best times of my life with my children. Good times with my wife, you know. But I've enjoyed these years like I knew I would. We've played a lot of games, we've done a lot of hiking, we've cooked, and like I said, I've enjoyed these years a lot. You know, it's just right now, it's another stage of their life, and mine. You can't constantly be a toddler. All right, it's all brown now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drain a little bit of the water, and then I'm going to add the spices. I want it to be less wet. I'll be back. All right, I'm back. Drained a lot of the water, and now I'm going to add the spices. Smells like tacos to me. All right. Mix it in so we get a good mixture going. We don't want to have all the spice on one side. Slowly, so we don't lose it. Like I said, I'm a big fan of Mexican food. Love Mexican food. But you know, I have food that I like. I like the Greek food. I like the Indian food. I like Mexican food. Japanese food. You know, Chinese food. I like Chinese food. Used to have a friend years ago. And he liked Chinese food a lot, but in those days, I didn't know much about Chinese food. So he would take me, he would call up and say, hey, you want to go get a bite somewhere? And I'd say, yeah, let's go. So he'd come by and pick me up. He had a 1971 Lincoln Continental, big car. It was like a ship, like a love boat, huge. And his parents, we're done with that. His parents gave it to him when he got his license. So he would come by and we'd end up going to this Chinese restaurant. Nobody spoke English in there. They only knew what was on the menu. And so I didn't know anything. I was clueless. I don't know what to get. You know, he knew everything. He was like, yeah, I'm gonna get that. You know, and the guy would come over and he would tell the guy. So I concentrated on what I could pronounce without getting embarrassed. And what I found was something called Mumu Gai Pan, or something like that, close. Mumu Gai Pan. Mumu Gai Pan. And every time we would go, I would tell the guy, as if I was an expert, I would tell the waiter, I would say, Mumu Gai Pan. And he would nod and he'd bring me back. And I liked it. After a while, I started appreciating it. So that was my go-to meal, Mumu Gai Pan. I think I'm missing like a letter in there. Mumu, maybe it's not Mumu, maybe it's Mumu Gai Pan. All right. So, I'm going to bring this inside. I'll be back. All right, I'm back. I brought in the taco meat, and now I think I'm going to warm up the bread here. Make the tortillas a little bit more, a little bit warmer. All right, take them out. I have a little bit of butter here, so add a little bit of flavor, a little bit. So when I went to the supermarket, I took my daughter in with me, and You know, we were buying, you know, this stuff and some fruits and vegetables, things like that. And then we went over to the dairy section and the meat section, and I look over in the distance and I say to my daughter, I think that's one of the teachers from the school. But I was kind of far away and I was looking at her from the back. But I was 99.99997% sure that it was her. And when I got closer, I called her name out and she turned around, so then I knew definitely it's her. She's one of my favorite people at the school. She's one of the first people I met. She's the first teacher I met at that school, and good person, good company. You know, she was there shopping for her parents, and we talked for a few minutes. But yeah, one of my favorite people at the school. You know, so I enjoy her company, and like I said, we talked for a few minutes. Mentioned that I went out to the desert, and then she went on her way, I went on my way, we paid, we left, and the rest is history. But yeah, at first I thought maybe it's not her, because you don't want to, you know, call out a name and then you kind of, you know, spook a person. You know, they jump back to like, and you look at them and you go, oh, sorry, I saw you from the back and you look like somebody I know, but it was her. A lot of times when you see, there they come again, LAPD, they probably see the brightness here. So anyway, a lot of times when you see a teacher out of the normal environment that you see them in, like at a mall or, I don't know, a car dealership, it takes a second for you to realize that, oh, that's a teacher from the school. When I was a kid, one of my teachers had a part-time job at the meat department at one of the local grocery stores. First time I saw him there, I did a double take. And then he called my name. He said, hey, Nick, how you doing? And I said, I'm good. What are you doing here? So he had a part-time job. So yeah, that's what happened. I bumped into a teacher there and we had a little chat. Good lady. So yeah, I will say this though, years ago when I was a kid, one of my teachers, nun, so I was late at that school there. I was, you know, it had gotten dark out, so I was there pretty late, and she said to me, you know, and I'm not call your mother guy, I'm not that type of guy, you know, it's like, I never was into that, you know, come pick me up. So she says to me, why don't you go downstairs and call your mother up to come pick you up? And I'm thinking, so she's standing right next to me while I'm calling, and then she finally leaves to give me, I guess, privacy to call. And I call up. I did one less number than what I was supposed to do because I didn't want to call. And then I pretended to talk. And I'm like, oh, you can't come and get me? Oh, okay, all right. So I hung up, and the reason I pretended to talk is I thought maybe the nun went into another room and picked up the phone to listen. So, I mean, she would only hear me talking, that's the thing. So anyway, she comes back and she's like, is your mother coming? I go, no, she can't make it. My uncle is visiting and she doesn't want to leave him there alone. It wasn't true, but I didn't want my mother to come up there. You know, my mother would not come up there under normal circumstances. I would take the bus and the train home. I'm not going to have her come up there at night now. So anyway, I get ready to leave, and the nun says to me, oh, I'll give you a ride to the bus station. And I'm like, you drive? And she's like, of course I drive. And I go, I find that weird. she had the whole outfit on, you know, the headgear and anyway, so she comes out with her keys, and they had an orange Chevy station wagon parked in front of their homes there, convent. And the back was full of like boxes and stuff, so I don't know, they had stuff in there. And she says to me, get in. So I got in, and it's like the Flying Nun. I'm watching her, and she's obviously aware that I'm looking at her in a strange way, and she turns around and she giggles because she realized how funny to me it looked. That here she is with her whole outfit, had the outfit on, and she was driving me, and I was like, it's weird. You know, I was fine walking to the bus stop, but she gave me a ride. And out of all things, an orange station wagon. And I'll tell you this right now. She looked old to me in those days. I thought she was late 70s. She died recently. And somebody who knew her, like I knew her, said to me she wasn't that old back then. I think she was either early 50s or late 40s. To me, she looked like late 70s. I thought she was an old woman. One time, when we were getting ready to graduate from this school, the entire time I had known her, she always had her outfit on. Mama's boy going home. Anyway, so I never once saw her without her ninja outfit. And then one day I was in class there, had my back to the door, and this was right at the end of school year. And I turn around and she's dressed in regular clothing, regular wardrobe, like, you know, what anybody else would wear that wasn't a nun. And I did a double take, triple take, and she started to laugh. I go, that's what you look like underneath all that, you know, karate gear. And I always thought she had long hair, but when I saw her, she had very short hair, and she was giggling. She found it funny. Anyway, I thought it was funny too. Yeah, the thing I remember about her the most is her grasp on English grammar. She knew everything. I mean, she was like a book. Like any question you had, you couldn't stump her. Best grammar teacher. Out of all my years in school, she was the best grammar teacher. There was another nun down the hall who was a science teacher. But I tell her, you're teaching science? Anyway, she had a very, very heavy Irish accent, which I loved. I'm a big fan of Ireland. Love the sound of the accent. Love the country. You know, it's on my bucket list to visit Ireland. And so she would talk in that accent. She would always say top of the morning to you when she would see you in the morning, because that's the only time it made sense. And but no sense of humor. She took everything seriously. Couldn't joke with her at all. She immediately would lose her temper. And she was young. Not anymore, but back then she was young. She couldn't have been more than 30, 31, somewhere around there. Yeah, this smells great. Make a few more. Plus I get the hard taco shells there. A little butter for flavor. I have a big flat grill thing, you know, the kind you cook eggs on and everything. But now I got this out here. I don't feel like, you know, and then that one, you need a different heating system because this is too small. That thing is about that big. And I've taken it before out to the desert where I've cooked breakfast. Steak and eggs is actually what I had. And the reason I have steak and eggs is because it reminds me of an episode of on Bonanza. There was an episode where Ben, the father, and I don't know if it was Little Joe or Hoss. Might have been Little Joe. Anyway, they go into one of those saloons, and Ben Cartwright says, "I'll have steak and eggs." And I said, "Oh, I didn't know you could do that combination. I didn't know it was that good." And then I had steak and eggs a couple of times, and I go, "Oh, that's pretty good." So, but I always remember Ben Cartwright when I have steak and eggs, because I am a big fan of Western television shows. Love them. Love the music. Love that map that burns. I actually have a full-size version of the Ponderosa map. It's a big property. Big property. In today's world, if you had a property that size, you would have probably like 3,000 homeless people living in tents on that property. You wouldn't even know it. You know? How would you track it? I mean, you wouldn't be able to watch. You'd have to have like, you know, 150 security guards patrolling at all times. Too expensive. All right. But like I've said in other videos, now when I watch Bonanza, I find the plots to be very thin. Very thin. You know, it's almost like they sat down and they wrote the plot in like 2 hours. Or they had a couple of 5th graders come in and they said, "Can you guys write a plot?" And the 5th graders wrote a plot. That's what it seems like now. Back when I was a kid, very impressed with the plots, but now they're okay, but like I said, they're very thin. Takes time to get this done. Oh, and I also want to say I'm a big fan of Lebanese food, which is similar, Greek food, similar. Argentine food. One time in Pasadena, me and my wife, or my wife and I, went to an Argentinian restaurant, and it was awesome, awesome. Every culture has good food. I mean, I'm sure they have certain things that you look at and you go, "I can't eat that." It's, you know, not my kind of texture. I can't eat that. But every culture has something good. Every culture. You know, Brazil, good steaks. Cuba has good food. I went one time into a Cuban restaurant. I got some Cuban food. It was really good. Soul food is good. Love soul food. I didn't know much about it, but a friend of mine who was an expert took me and he ordered some stuff. And really good flavor. You know, there's probably other places that, you know, Chacha's Chicken, Caribbean food. Yeah, these are about done. All right, now I'm gonna go inside and we're gonna eat. And yesterday I watched the last episode of the current season of Fargo. That went fast for me. I love that show. All of them, all the seasons were great. First season blew me away, you know. I was like, yeah, this is my kind of show. All right. I mean, you wait, I don't know how long we wait, a year and a half, and then boom, 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 you know, within a week, you're done. Because we don't watch one, we watch, you know, 2, 3 sometimes in a row. All right, that smells really good. So I will put the rest of the butter inside the fridge. Clean up here, and I will be back in the future when the day is new and I'll have things to talk about with you. All right, ciao.